Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're looking at a new lens that I've purchased. When I say new, I actually got it second hand from Wex Photographic, and the lens we're looking at is the Sony 18-200 OSS LE lens for the APS-C bodies, not the full frame bodies but the Sony APS-C bodies. And I purchased this lens because I wanted to replace my 18-105 that I have here. This is a power zoom 18-105. It served me really well and I really like the lens. So I'm not replacing it because I'm not happy with its optical quality or its build quality or anything of that nature. It's purely because I thought, well, the 18-200, when you look at its size comparison, they're both very similar. Let's actually take the lenses off because that's going to be easier. They're both very similar in size and they're quite similar in weight. In fact, the 18-200 is slightly smaller. So you can see, let me get that a bit clearer. You can kind of see there the difference in size. And I thought, well, why don't I get the 18-200? Because the weight of it is very similar. And its actual overall size is very similar, but I've got a much longer telephoto range, so I can keep it on the camera as a standard lens because it goes as wide as 18, which I think is about 27mm in full frame terms, right up to 200, which would be around the 300 mark in full frame terms. So it's a very versatile lens, quite a bit more versatile than the 18-105. It's also got optical steady shot, which is what the 18-105 has, so I'm not losing anything there. So I thought it makes sense. As long as the optical quality is at least equally as good. I don't think it's any better, but it is certainly equally as good. And I really do like the optical quality. I will go through some of the images on the computer in just a moment. It's actually a nice size, it's a nice weight. It's got a nice smooth zoom ring. It does trombone where the 18-105 doesn't. That's internal zoom in, so when you zoom on that one it's all internal, which is really nice actually. I mean, that's a nice bonus from that point of view. But when you get used to the fact that it's going to trombone, it doesn't really make any odds. It's got a nice focus ring. I don't do manual focusing, but if I did, I'd be quite happy with that lens cap has just fallen off. I'd be quite happy with that because it's got quite a nice smooth ring, metal mount. You know, it's not plastic, so that'll do well. Yeah, nice construction lens. It's the only switch on it is a lock switch to stop the lens from tromboning when it's in your camera bag. Somewhere on here we've got a lock switch just there. You see there's a lock switch which basically stops the lens from, you know, creeping out when it's in your camera bag. And that feature's fine. It only works at the 18mm end. You can't lock it anywhere during the actual zoom. So it's purely a safety switch to stop it from, you know, coming out, you know, in your camera bag. So, you know, nice design, nice lens, really nice lens. So what we'll do, we'll have a look at some of the image quality from it. It's not a power zoom lens, unlike the 18-105. This one has got your power zoom. I guess that's useful if you're into video production. Again, I never use it in video anyway, so you know that doesn't really matter to me. And also, the 18-105 is a constant f4 aperture, and that's constant throughout the range. Again, useful for video. This one isn't. This is a variable aperture, F3.5, I think, to 6.4. So it's quite a range actually. But it's a much longer telephoto end. So you know, you gain on one, lose on the other. I mean, again, with the modern Sony cameras, you can actually increase the ISO. You can't bump it up incredibly high, but you can certainly increase it high enough to get around the fact that it's not such a wide aperture at the telephoto end. And it isn't an expensive lens either. So you have to take all of these sort of factors into consideration when you're looking at the 18-200 lens. But yeah, other than that, it's a you know, it's a beast. It's a nice lens. It comes with a lens hood, which is fine, and most lenses do come with lens hoods. But the fact that it's got optical steady shot in the lens is great if you're using it on something like the A6400, 6300, well, pretty much all of them apart from the A6600. I've been using it on my ZV-E10 with a lot of success. I shall show you there. Also, predominantly, I've been using it on the A6600. So if we just stick it on the A6600 for the moment, you will see it balances on that quite nicely. So you can see there, you know, it's fitted to the A6600, and with the grip, because the A6600 has got a fantastic grip. I really do like the grip on the A6600, and it balances on that nicely. It's quite a heavy lens. I'll put a weight in the description, so it is quite a heavy lens, but it balances nicely. And with the optical steady shot in the lens, as well as the IBIS in-body image stabilization in the camera body, you've got a really, really good combination there and getting really steady shots at relatively low shutter speeds. I mean, at the telephoto end, I wouldn't want to go less than, say, 100th of a second, because it would be, you know, it'd be silly to, even, you know, with all the image stabilization. Although I have gone down to 1/50th of a second to play with it, and it's still been pretty good. So, yeah, fits nicely on that body, and, you know, makes a great travel lens. You know, if you are going out and about, and I do go out and about for day trips quite a bit, you know, it's great to just have that one lens on the camera body, because 18 is pretty wide. It's not exceptional, but it is pretty wide. It's the same as on my, same width as on my Sigma 18-50, which is actually on my ZV-E10 at the moment. So, and that's a really, really compact lens, but that's an f2.8 aperture throughout its range. There'll be a link up here somewhere to the review of the Sigma 18-50, because I do really like that lens. So what I would probably do when I go out and about is keep the 18-200 on the A6600. Actually, I'll probably keep it on the ZV-E10, because the ZV-E10 hasn't got image stabilization, and this lens has. And I would put the 18-50 on the ZV-E10. Sorry, the 18-50 on the A6600. It gets so confusing, all these different model numbers. Yeah, so, you know, that is it fitted to the A6600. It looks smart, and, you know, does the job well. Now let's have a quick look at these, a few test shots I took in the garden. I haven't had a chance to get out and about with this lens just as yet, because the weather's not been great, and I've only had it a couple of days. So in fact, it's an old lens in the sense of when it came out. This particular version that I have may not be that old, I don't know, but yeah, it came out in May 2012. We're now in 2021, so it's a 9-year-old optic. So obviously optical design's improved, you know, I don't know how much, but it's obviously improved quite a bit since then. It's still a current model in Sony's range, so you can get it from, you know, vast majority of the, you know, photographic retailers. I've got mine from Wets Photographic, but it is available from many others. And it's a great optic. Now I'm going to go through some of these images that we have here on my computer, and just to, you know, show you how good this lens is. If you look at the actual range it covers, now what we'll do, let's have a quick look at, well, let's start from the beginning. It doesn't matter where I start, does it? So let's just go, the colours are lovely, its sharpness is really good, and it just looks a nice lens, you know. You get nice clarity, nice detail. Now, the images that I show you on the computer here are not going to be so good on YouTube as they would be on Flickr. I will upload these sample images to my Flickr page. I highly recommend you take a look at them on my Flickr page, and many other images of lenses, camera bodies that I've taken. And Flickr's really great, because not only do you see, you know, a better quality image than what you will do on my YouTube channel, you'll also be able to see the metadata. So you'll be able to see the EXIF information about, you know, the aperture, the shutter speed, and many other details, what camera body was used. So I highly recommend you take a look at my Flickr page. There'll be a link in the description to my Flickr page, and that would be the best thing to do, but I'm going to quickly go through them here because it kind of makes sense to. We can see here, again, this is on a really lousy day, but still nice and sharp. The colours are punchy, even on a flat day. Lovely sharpness. I really like, what this lens can do. And because it is as I said earlier, it basically replaces the kit zoom, and it covers a much, much wider range. We can see details, you can see the sharpness in that. It is just really, really nice. Even now, that's quite a dark area. I know the ISO is based on the camera body, not the lens, but there is always a combination between the two, a correlation between the two. But that works out fine as well. Picks up fine detail without any issue. When the computer decides to load the image. Again, very natural looking sharpness. And these files are very easy to edit. I'm using a program here called Luminar 4. You can use, any photo editing software. I like Luminar 4. There's Luminar AI, and then there's Luminar Neo coming out, or Neon coming out soon. I really do like the Luminar programs. I think they're really good. Again, I'll put a link in the description to where you can download a trial version of Luminar or Luminar AI. And if you do decide you want to buy it, use the code AVP to get $10 off. And it's a great bit of software, really cost effective. It can do everything. It can do your cataloging, it can do your editing, and also it's got AI built into it, so it's really clever from that point of view. We can enhance all this to our heart's content, just the same as you can in Lightroom and any other program. It is really, really good, and you can you've got all your features for seeing before and after. That's after the edit. That's before. That's how it came out of camera. I've lifted the shadows, given it a bit more punch. You can increase the sharpness, decrease the sharpness, a whole host of different things. For example, in this image here, that was lousy when that came out of camera. Well, it's not a particularly great image anyway, but you can see what let's do that right. So what came out of camera was basically that. A really poor sky, because it was a naff day, it was yesterday, and I've replaced the sky because this particular software has got sky replacement, and I think that is phenomenal. I really do. I love it. There's a sky, so we go into sky replacement. We can choose another sky. Let's go with that one, and we've got that. We can change the strength of it, the details. Actually, that fits out quite nice because of the autumn colours on the leaves. So there's a lot you can do with Luminar AI and Luminar 4. Really is a lot you can do, and I like it a lot. So let's go back to some of these images. But you can see, let's go back to Molly again. You can see the clarity in the eye. The lens isn't pin sharp, and I quite like that, to be honest. I quite like the fact, you can see the eye is nice and sharp. I quite like the the naturalness of it. I find with a lot of images, when we talk about sharpness, you can overdo it, because when something looks too sharp, it looks digital, it looks false, it doesn't look organic. I quite like this lens because it isn't over sharp. I know that could be quite an issue if it depends on what you're photographing, but the sort of work I do, I quite like not soft images, but just that hint of softness, which is very much what film is like. When you watch feature films and movies, they quite often, well, more often than not, they'll put a filter over the lens to reduce the sharpness of the lens, just to give it that slight hint of the film look as opposed to the digital look. This is an issue when you're taking photographs with a mobile phone. They're very digital and you need to reduce the sharpness. This is why, again, I love this program, because I'm getting some great images from my iPhone. I've done various videos on iPhone photography and I'm getting some really nice images, but I find I really do have to take the sharpness almost down to zero, well, pretty much down to 0 on the computer, just to get rid of that digital artificial sharpening that you know, tends to, you know, be inherent with mobile phone images. But with this particular lens, you don't get that, because the lens isn't a particularly, you know, sharp, you know, overly sharp lens. Sharp enough for what I want, but it isn't incredibly sharp. But again, you know, lovely clarity, lovely detail. I'm very, very pleased with what, once a computer renders it, of course, I'm very pleased with what the detail, you know, is, you know, that is coming out of this, you know, this lens, this camera combination. It works great with the ZV-E10 as it does with the A6600. But I did find with the ZV-E10, which I knew I was going to find, it was obvious really, I couldn't go to quite such a slow shutter speed on the ZV-E10 as I could on the A6600, because the ZV-E10 hasn't got IBIS, it hasn't got in-body image stabilization, so it's not working together. You're only reliant on the image stabilization in the lens. So I would recommend setting a faster shutter speed with the ZV-E10 or the 6100, 6400, etc. than what you can set on the 6300, because with the 6300 it has got in-body image stabilization in this camera, so you can actually, you know, crank it down just that little bit more. That is the Sony 18-200 OSS lens, OSS LE lens. I don't know what the LE stands for, but the OSS LE lens for the Sony APS-C bodies. Obviously it's E-mount. It will work on the full frame bodies, but it'll work in crop sensor mode, so it's kind of pointless really, because you're gonna like, for example, the A7C, which is a 24 megapixel sensor, you're going to be down to about 10 or 11 megapixels, which is still okay, but it kind of defeats the object for doing that. You are better off buying, if you've got a full frame body, you are better off buying a full frame lens, unless you're doing video, because you can still shoot beautiful 4K video on a full frame body in APS-C mode. So not quite so bad for video, but certainly for stills I wouldn't recommend it. On the subject of equipment and what I'm using today, I'm sure most people were going to ask me, a lot of people are going to ask me what kit do I use, and it does vary from video to video. But today I'm getting me close-up shot on my Panasonic S5 with the F50mm lens, and ironically that is in APS-C mode to get a slightly tighter shot. So that's getting the close-up shot. I have got a second wide shot, another wide shot coming off my ZV-E10, and I can't remember, I think I've got the Sigma 18-50 f2.8 lens fitted to the ZV-E10 up there, and up here I've got my Panasonic GH5 Mark II with a Lumix 12-35 f2.8 lens fitted to that camera, and then the close-up shots are being picked up on my very trusty little Sony ZV-1, and that's great. So that's the 4 cameras, I think that is, isn't it? 3 cameras, yeah, 4 cameras. That's the 4 cameras that I'm using for filming today's video. And as I say, the photographs will be available on Flickr for you to have a look at. And don't forget to download the trial version of Luminar AI or Luminar 4. I think you'll get on really well with it, and it's really cost effective. And if you do decide to buy it, just remember to use my code AVP to get $10 off. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. It really helps me grow the channel, and I really, really appreciate that. None of my reviews are particularly technical reviews. You need to look at other people's videos to get technical specs of, you know, these lenses, camera bodies, whatever. It's just how I find the lenses and camera bodies and microphones and what have you. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography, and you know, see you soon. Cheers for now. Bye.